Hi, this is Susan Specht Oram and little Abby. She's my writing assistant, and I'm the author of the Millersville Thriller series. And there you can see a Foss tug, the Lindsay Foss, in the foreground, and Mount Baker back there, a ship and some sailboats. And way over here there's another Foss tug. They're waiting probably to pick up a tanker and take it into one of the two refineries that are off of Fidalgo Island. So I just wanted to say hello, and there goes a hummingbird and a dragonfly too. So I'm doing a series about writing and the writing process, and let's take a look at Abby. And we're sitting here on Fidalgo Island at an old amphitheater. It was built in, I believe, the early 1930s, when everybody couldn't afford paid forms of entertainment. And so they built this stone amphitheater to watch the boat races. And it must have been mighty cold. Dog is trying to eat the grass. But let's talk about entertainment for a minute, because I was at several writing workshops with Robert Dugani, a thriller writer, mystery writer, and he would ask the question, what is the reason why people pick up a book? And the answer is to be entertained. They want to be entertained. Pardon me. And are our books entertaining? And so, it's really, I think that applies to any form of fiction. So my aim when I write is to create books that are uplifting and inspiring to the readers, and create joy, but also drag you in with a sense of mystery. And pardon me, the dog is pulling on the leash, trying to eat grass. Pull you in with a mystery, and that takes you till the end to figure out what's going on. And I hope I accomplished that. So if you have any thoughts about future topics I should cover in my future YouTube series about writing process, hey little girl, let me know. Shoot me an email, or leave a comment. Better yet, leave a comment on this YouTube video. We'll just wait for a boat to go past the tugboat, and I'll close off this session. I guess you might ask also, where do ideas for books come from? For me, I keep a rolling list of ideas of possible plots for books, and right now I think I'm at 142 ideas for future books, so I probably will not get to all of them before I pass away. We've got a long-lived family line. Quite busy out on the water today. It's pretty cool, isn't it? We'll zoom in on this. So I could keep writing into my 90s, one hopes, but the women in our family tend to live to be 100 years old, 104, and so I've got a long ways ahead of me, and hopefully I will be able to write many more books in the coming years. So out of that list of 142 book ideas, I've also got other ideas swimming around in my head. And so generally, I just pick up an idea that occurs to me and that feels right, so that intuitive part of the writing process. And I'll see if that has legs, is worth more than just a few chapters. That boat is probably heading into Cap Santa Marina on Fidalgo Island. What a beautiful day, huh? And, I have one short story that I've got out, and it's a reader's magnet driving people to my newsletter, email author newsletter. And right now I'm having challenges with my author newsletter technologically. because I'm really trying to be technologically savvy, but this new site is flummoxing me. So I signed up for it, and it's going to cost only $11 a month, but I can't get it to send emails, so I'm still using a more expensive other form of newsletter service provider. Anyway, someday I'll get that newsletter reader magnet up and run Facebook ads to it and get more subscribers. But generally I write longer length stories, novels, just because it's so satisfying to write a story where people start in a certain position in their lives with a certain attitude, and then their character arc and the events, the plot, force them to grow and become a better, different person, or force them to eventually crumble and turn to either continue their evil ways as our villain or antagonist, or maybe they'll have a different choice. Some turkey buzzard right there up in the tree. All right, well, have a great day, and thanks for listening to me. And we'll have a last shot, I hope, of little Abby, my writing assistant here. There she is. Ever watchful. All right, take care and have a fabulous day. Bye-bye. Hello, I'm Susan Specht Oram, and I'm the author of the Millersville Thriller series, and also The Mother's Threat, and Secrets at the Cafe, and Under Jackson Bridge, which is the beginning of a new series. The next book in that series will be Missing Man, and I'm just reading the first draft of it. I let it sit for a month, and now I'm reading the draft and giving some overview points to myself, taking notes about the plot and the specifics. So I'll dive in next week into editing Missing Man and then send it to 3 beta readers and my editor. So I wanted to talk about my grandmother, because we all have people who inspire us to be writers or artists or accountants or whatever we do for work, nurses, doctors, dental hygienists. So my grandmother was inspirational to me because she was part of a book club in the suburb of Detroit that I lived in and growing up. And so she was part of a book group, and then she wrote different short stories, children's books, and she wrote a treatise about paleontology and fossils, specifically focusing on trilobites, a certain type of fossil, I believe from the Devonian period. And she learned German so that she could translate some research about trilobites during the Devonian period into English for her master's degree. So some people are just inspiring. I mean, she wasn't perfect. She had some downsides in her life too. But for me, she encouraged me to read, and then she encouraged me to write stories. And then because she was a writer, I thought, well, at some point in my life, maybe I could do that too. But then I put it off because I needed to make a living. I put it off because it just sometimes inspiration doesn't strike, and I think I needed more life experience, but I didn't know that at the time. And so now there's so much of what I've experienced or heard from other people that has gone into my stories, not in a plagiarizing way, but actually, like in one book, I think it's, Under Jackson Bridge, there's our main character, Irina Fishbone. her mother passed away from breast cancer, and so she recognizes somebody who lives on a boat in the marina, and she went through chemotherapy for breast cancer, as I happen to, and so she's constantly cold all the time, this character who Irina Fishbone knows. And so I just experienced that in life, pardon me, in 2017 when I went through a year of chemotherapy and then Herceptin treatment, another therapeutic, and radiation. But the result for me was of radiation, I am just constantly cold all the time, especially like my neighbors make fun of me and our friends because I'll be wearing a light down coat, a puffer jacket, when it's 60, 62, sometimes even 65 degrees out. And that's pretty bad, isn't it? But my torso was cold, and my neighbor who's 93, she went through the same mastectomy and then chemotherapy and radiation, and she had the same reaction. So we each have, I think, 3 or 4 down vests that we wear all the time. But today, before we get back to my grandmother, is a rare day in the Pacific Northwest. So it's, I think, 78 degrees out, and it rarely gets that way, that warm, 70 degrees or more in the Seattle area. And we are 2 hours north of Seattle on an island reachable by 2 bridges, Fidalgo Island. And so the wind sweeps through from the San Juan Islands and west, and then sometimes I sound like a Weather Channel person, but anyway, the wind comes from the north sometimes and brings the cold air from Canada. So over 70 degrees Fahrenheit in our area is very unusual. But today it's almost 80, and so here I am in a sundress. I've got my sandals on, and I am ready to sit outside in the sun after this video ends, and I can get back to hopefully out there. I've got the Wi-Fi on the patio, and I can keep reading the draft of Missing Man. And that's a fun part of the process, by the way. I think the writing is so fun when I'm doing that. And then the editing is fun, and the publishing part, the marketing is fun. So it took me, I think I started learning about publishing in earnest in 2018. So then my first book was published in October of 2023. So let's see, that would be 2018, counting on my fingers, 2019. So 5 or 6 years. But frankly, I'm still learning so much about the publishing industry. It's unlike any other industry I've worked in or tried to learn about. Really complex. And so there's more to learn every day, and of course it's changing all the time too. So back to my grandmother. She was a role model for me, and I read back when I was in college, back in the day, that the most successful women have a strong role model in their maternal grandmother, and this happened to be my maternal grandmother, who I'm speaking of. So she was just a lovely person when she wasn't being prejudiced or judgmental. But we all have downsides, don't we? So today I choose to just focus on the positives of my grandmother, who I called Gago, and that she inspired me to become a writer after I went through a year of breast cancer treatment. So here's to your grandmother, even though you passed away a while back. And my other grandmother was fabulous too. All right, thanks for taking time to listen to me and hear about my inspiration for writing. And of course, as a writer, there are many other sources of inspiration who I've had, like writer friends and and books that I've read and life experiences, like a trip I was lucky enough to go on by myself to Italy and meet a friend who was living there at the time. So have a fabulous day, and thanks for listening to me. I really appreciate that. Okay, you take care. Bye-bye. Hello, this is Susan Specht Oram and Abby, the rescue dog, and we are here on Fidalgo Island. And I just wanted to talk a little bit today about writing and creativity. So I'm here tending to somebody else's garden. And by the way, I'm the author of the Millersville Thriller series and some other suspense novels and mysteries. And you can find them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, Watermark Books in Anacortes, Washington. So it's just a gorgeous day here. The noise in the background is the working waterfront. It's the shipyard or the port. And it sounds to me like maybe they're grinding off some paint or grinding rust away from the hull of a boat. Who knows what they're up to down there. Maybe they're welding too. So in my mind, writing is a lot like gardening and the creative process. So we've got to water the garden. We've got to tend to the plants, weed out the bad ideas or the ones that are overgrown and maybe distracting, and make sure to tend our creative spirit too and take time out. I just finished drafting last month Missing Man, book 2 in the series of Following Under the Bridge, Under Jackson Bridge was the final title. And I just gave a read-through to Missing Man, the draft document, yesterday, and it took some twists and turns, the book, that I didn't expect. Let's take a look at Abby again here. There she is, being such a good dog. She was such a, just out of shape, couldn't walk on a leash, couldn't walk. Was afraid of my husband for about 1.5 years after we got her from a rescue organization in Texas. But now she and he are best pals, partly because he feeds her extra special food. He gives her the canned dog food with the kibble. So back to Missing Man. There I am reading the draft, and that there were some storylines that took me by surprise, and the ending I was kind of surprised by. And I think that's good if it takes the author by surprise upon a final read of the draft. And hopefully it will surprise the readers too. So that's the second book in that follows Under the Bridge in Beyond the Bridge series. That book, Missing Man, will come out in November. And then probably in the next month or so, I'll start working on the third book in that series. I have 2 other books, though, calling out to me to write. And they, I guess, if we're going to use the analogy of gardening, might be a seed that's sprouted and wanting watering, wanting attention, fertilizer. But I don't feel that's the right time. I want to finish this series that I started, the new series, before I go on to another book, just to make sure I keep the thread going. All right, well, that's enough of metaphors and analogies and gardening and creativity. We could go on about that, but I think it's pretty obvious. And let's see what Abby thinks before we part ways here. It's just a gorgeous day in the Pacific Northwest. It's already almost 70 degrees and it's 9 a.m. Having survived cancer and cancer treatment, I just feel lucky to be alive and walking on this planet. And I'm sure you all do too. It's just a marvel to be alive and to be able to to look out, see a hummingbird in the distance there in the garden. We are fortunate to be alive. And I feel very lucky to have readers like you watching my videos and reading my books and telling your friends about them. I just really, really appreciate that. I'm sure Abby does too. All right, well, have a fabulous day. Take care. Goodbye from Abby, my writing assistant, and from Susan Specht Oram, author of the Millersville Thriller series and other books too. Bye-bye. Hello, this is Susan Specht Oram, author of the Millersville Thriller series and other mysteries, thrillers, and suspense novels. They're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Watermark Book Company in Anacortes, and on Audible iTunes. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the still, quiet voice and that voice of inspiration that sometimes we as creative people ignore, and how important it is to just sit and be at times. And here I am sitting with a gin on the rocks, just listening to the birds. A blue heron, great blue heron, just flew overhead quietly. Usually they make a flapping, squawking noise, screeching. And just having a moment as a creative person to just sit and be and appreciate the quiet stillness around us. But wait, a noisy car just went up the hill. But because I was watching just now on a walk with my dog and just hanging out, walking along on a hill, I happened to notice two suspicious looking men in their early 30s. It's a hot day, it's in the low 70s, the sun is bearing down, and it was late afternoon, but there were two guys in the bushes, and they had watch caps on, black watch caps, and if I put this in a novel you might not believe it, and dark jackets zipped up and black pants. And they were scrambling about on the ground near a house, the last house up the hill, and kind of digging in the dirt, the surface of the dirt. Perhaps they were mushroom hunting. But wait, this could be inspiration for a novel. What were they really up to? Were they burying a dead body? Were they contemplating a crime, breaking into the last house on the hill before you get to a park? Or were they looking for a camping spot? Or who knows, having a bio break, and I happened to walk by and the dog and I looked over. Anyway, that's just a comment from a writer thinking about the creative moments and those quiet pauses, and how important it is to listen to our inner tapping to that creative well, the resource that we each have, before we write and before we edit. So I just want to thank for anyone who's read my books and say have a wonderful evening or day, and take care. Bye-bye. Oh, I guess I should add that I chose to take a break of 3.5, 4 weeks after I finished writing my last novel that I drafted, Missing Man. And so I let it just sit there and simmer in the back of my mind while I read other books and gardened, walked the dog, talked to my husband, and laughed. And that really has helped the book, I think, because I just returned to it late yesterday and today, and with a new perspective, as if it wasn't my book, but someone else's. Just a comment from the peanut gallery. Okay, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hello, this is Susan Specht Oram, author of the Millersville Thriller series. And I was gardening earlier today, and this deer, about a year-old deer I'm guessing, it just sat there the whole time I was working around a fruit tree over there. So that one. Pretty wild. I was removing the wire fencing around it, and she just sat there. A little spotted fawn walked by too. I think what I want to talk about in this video is inspiration. And so I already talked about in a previous video, my grandmother, she was a writer. So for me, it's just so inspiring to live in a neighborhood where people are super friendly and caring, and then to be around deer like this and eagles calling out, ravens croaking. It's just a wonder, and it, I hope, seeps into my work. My novels are pardon me, set in the Pacific Northwest, and so I hope that they're saturated with that scenic environment, that atmosphere, but also with a sense of tension driving through the whole story, through the characters, through the environment around them, and also through the natural environment. So there are many, as you know, as a reader of books, and perhaps you're a writer too, there's so many places to be get inspiration, but for me I find it in the natural setting as well as in people who I meet. All right, take care. Bye-bye.